Creative Magic Club. What's up? This is Sarah Mack and welcome to Creative Magic Club. Together, we'll discover inspirational stories of creative entrepreneurs living out their dreams, doing the work they are most passionate about, and building wealth in magical and fun ways. While building a six-figure income as a writer and coach, helping other women to launch their dream businesses, I've connected with so many incredible people and seen it proven again and again that you can thrive financially doing whatever it is you are passionate about. I'm here to share life-changing strategies for mindset, making money, and reaching more people with your work in a business and life filled with creativity, freedom, and fun. Hi, welcome everyone. I'm super excited to introduce my guest for today. Shilpa Agarwal from Mumbai, now based in Adelaide, is a book coach. And what started out as an exploration to see if she could ever really write a book of her own grew into a book coaching and publishing business where Shilpa now works with coaches, entrepreneurs, and leaders to bring the book within them out. She's the author of #1 Amazon bestseller, Want Solution, There's Always One, and has helped coaches publish books in various niches like mindfulness, conscious parenting, creativity, PTSD, mompreneurship, grief and loss, marriage, and relationship with self. Thank you so much for joining us, Shilpa.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure, Sarah.
So please tell us about your journey to becoming a book coach. How did that happen?
Yeah, exactly. You know, as you just mentioned just now, it started as an exploration, as like a bit of a test, like a fun experiment. And I almost was prepared to kind of lose, you know. I wanted to prove myself right, that I cannot write a book, you know. And I had this weird belief, like I'm a student of science, and yet, you know, when I was inspired by, you know, like reading some Brian Tracy books, I used to read a lot of Brian Tracy in my 20s, you know, and like the amazing insights that he gives, like, you know, I would often think, how can one human be so godly and so inspiring and so touching? And you know, I would think they have a code from God, like, you know, there's some secret world happening which is unavailable to the normal ones like us, like weird, because I just could not wrap my head around it. And where was I? I'm getting too deep into my story. Yeah, so
you ended up writing a book, right?
Yeah, and it was just my mentor mentioning to me that, you know, once you grow your coaching business, once you get clear on what you really offer, you can actually connect deeply with your audience by writing a book, add value to your business. I was like, he must be joking, you know? And I was like, no, let me give it a shot. And yeah, and then things happened, and here I am.
Amazing. And what is it that you love most about helping other people go on that journey to write their own book?
I love the fact that, you know, what they start out imagining the result would be, that they would have finally completed this mammoth task of writing a book, ends up becoming like an entire personal development course in itself, like the whole process of writing a book, and you know, like facing all the resistance that comes up on the way, overcoming that resistance, and then finally when they have their manuscript completed, like, you know, it's a feeling of reclaiming the power that they had given away, but that was always theirs. They just did not know. Yeah, that's what I love the most.
Amazing. So what would you say to, you know, people who are considering writing a book? Like, what do you tend to look for in clients in terms of like somebody who you really think is ready and capable to write a book versus somebody who isn't?
Great question, right? So why do we not write books, right? Why do I work with women? So why do women not write books? There's all kinds of excuses, but beliefs and fear stopping them. Like mine will just end up like one more book in the Amazon pile of trash. And who will even read it? Does the world even need more books? What's not been said that I want to say? Or what value can I even add? Like, all those things. Will they get me? Uh, Say someone's talking about depression. There's enough conversations going on about depression. Like, why does my story matter? So there's these are like real fears that stop people. Um, but if you're playing with this and you still have the desire to write a book, uh, here's so these are all hard stories, but then there's a next level of stories that people tell themselves. I don't think I have enough content. The title that I want is already taken. I'm bad with grammar. I'll write it when that happens, and when that happens. So there's two kinds of stories we tell ourselves. And if you're the first kind, if you're talking about the first kind of stories, like really emotional ones, uh, that can be worked upon, because that's normal fear. Like, I don't know, are you getting me? Like, let's tease this out a bit more. Yeah. Like, there's a difference in saying I'm ready to write a book and I want to write a book. And yeah, that exactly is your question, right? Who do I work with? Who's ready to work? Yeah.
I think it's a lot of the very similar challenges that people come up against just when they're marketing their business and their work in general, in that, like, what do I have to say that's so different or important, that hasn't already been said before? And I think it's so important to reiterate that message that, we get to reflect on our individual experience of the books that we've picked up, and, the messages that really touch us, whether we're scrolling on social media or reading an article in a magazine or reading a book, that there's something about the way that person said it in that particular moment that really hits home, even if it's something, and a lot of the time it is, especially when it's with, transformational work or personal development. We do hear the same stuff like over and over and over.
Exactly,
but we have to hear it over and over, because a lot of the time we're just rewiring and reconditioning unsupportive stories that we've heard over and over and over, right? So it's this, like, repetition is something that I personally have had a lot of resistance to, and clearly it's like a cultural thing, right? This like desire to be original, like say something new and different.
Like, one more thing that's coming to me is people, like, none of us, we don't want to be too much. We don't want to take up a lot of space. We don't want to be too seen. Don't want to, like, I don't know, like, it's taking me to a different track. But when I was growing up, I remember I would be very bold, confident, like, very happy-go-lucky girl, having fun in life. And then somewhere, the very popular word was decent, like, yeah, this color is decent. It's not gaudy, like, even when what we're wearing, that lipstick is not too bright, or things like that. And that we think we're talking about external appearance, but that's kind of affecting us on every level, right? And then we don't want our story to be heard, because if we talk too much about ourselves, we'll be too much, And so, coming back to your question, actually, I work with coaches who want to add value to their business, through writing a book, who want to really open up to their audience in a deeper way. And they want to leave a permanent mark of sorts, like, a book. Once it's there, it's there. It's not like a blog which outdates, or, and who's ready to do the work, basically.
I love that. It can't be said enough, right? It's like, it's revolutionary.
Exactly.
When we decide to be all of ourselves and
totally
rip off those limitations of being too much. I would love to know a little bit about your own personal journey of transformation during the process of writing your book. Like, what were some of those, like, key challenges that you came up against, and how did they change you?
Right. So, and I have done, as a book coach, I'm a bit, like, slightly proud of the mistakes now when I look back at them in hindsight, but I have made a lot of mistakes. And I am guilty of not being my own best client, like not following what I was teaching my clients. So the one of the principles that has almost always helped my clients get to the finish line is to decide the scope of their book. Like, okay, this is what I'm writing, this is the plot, this is where I begin, these are the 10 things, these are the 5, whatever, like how many were chapters, and this is how it finishes. Like, that's the story I'm telling them. But when it came to writing my own book, um, there was this temptation to fit everything in this one book, and um, there was this temptation to judge myself. And anyone else who wrote a book was a great person. But if I wrote a book myself, that could just be a fluke, you know? I was an imposter. And even though my book is an Amazon bestseller, that's by chance, that's false, all those things. So it never stops. And even like way after my book was launched, every time I wanted to promote it, uh, there was some space in my heart that was like, I know how average it is, but hey, I've written a book, so let's promote it. So it was from that space until, like recently, with the more work you do, the more you grow, the more transformations occur. And so, in 2021, I've made a few resolutions to myself. And the theme that I'm following is like never before. And to be honest, I've done like never before many times in the past, but this like never before is actually like never before. So a very few simple vows that I made to myself that I'm going to break up with overwhelm. Like, when I'm working on a project and it gets too overwhelming, that's because I'm thinking too far in the future. And what if I can just take this one next step? That's going to be better. And sometimes, like there's guilt and there's fear of the future. Guilt that I did not write anything for the last 10 days, and that's okay if I get to my keyboard now and write out, at least half a chapter, a few words, something, momentum. Um, so action and, on a mindset level, like no more down talking myself. I'm not available to that. So no matter how much my inner critic is like, I could right now down talk myself and just do a bit of self mockery just to make myself comfortable and say, yeah, I'm just an average book coach. Yeah. But we're not bringing that conversation to the forefront. We just acknowledge, yeah, you can keep going on, but I'm doing my thing. I'm totally claiming my space.
It's so powerful. And if you think of everybody who had a book inside them and, who had a really powerful message to share that had the potential to impact other people's lives, just thought they were amazing and were willing to break it down enough to just get it out there. Like, it changes the world, right? When people who feel like they're not important enough to speak are able to find a voice and to reach other people who really need that message. So I love that. It's so simple, but so powerful. And I'm curious, you ever go back and read sections of your book and then you're like, actually, this is really good?
I know that. Yes, very much. So, I'm really not able to promote my first book a lot, and that's the truth. And I'm working on my second book right now. I'm writing it. But every now and then when I just flip to a page and I'm like, did I write that or did I copy that from somewhere? Like, what was going on? Like, is that me? That's very profound. Yeah.
And I think it's so important, as writers, to remember that we're just a channel, right? It's like, I see the experience that we've lived in our life, like the events that happened to us, the way we dealt with things, the challenges that we've overcome, those are our paints. And then the stories that come out of us, are the picture that has resulted from that. And it's like, we didn't necessarily choose a lot of that stuff, but it was given to us, and that's our gold, right? That's where we get to create value by sharing that. And that's just the job as a writer, is to be a channel to be the vessel through which like a story comes, that, you know, just in the same way that we've been impacted by reading other people's works, and it just continues that cycle. And you know, I feel the same. Like I have had such a resistance to repetition in my life. Like I hate doing the same thing twice. I'll never watch the same movie twice. I always want to go somewhere different that I've never been before. And then when I look back on my writing and my messaging and, you know, really like my message, the thing that I'm most inspired to share with people, that is like the foundation of my work. I got to that point in my business where I was looking back over content that I've created, and I'm like, oh, it's the same thing over and over and over again. But yet every time I come to share it, it feels new, and I'm just as excited about it. And I'm like, oh, that's when you know that that's just your message, when it aligns with the thing that you're most passionate about talking about. That's just like the thing that wants to come through you, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, as you said, even though you said like, you know, you hate repetition, but, you know, I'm sure you might have some classic movies which you go to for like comfort zone, when you just don't want to think and you just want to go and watch like a movie or read a book. Like, I really love that book.
I mean, honestly, not really.
No.
Massive FOMO. I'm like, there's so many films in the world, there's so many books in the world, and I want to read them.
Yeah, there's no space for repetition. Yeah.
Apart from if I'm like showing it to somebody else, I like doing that. I like introducing people to things that I love, and then I'll sit down and watch it again. But even that, sometimes I don't enjoy it that much.
No, I mean, you know, you don't have to like read it yourself or watch it yourself again, but you remember, right? Like stories which touch you, you will remember.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I read it in her book, or I watched it in that movie, or that scene, you know, and that's all, right? You know, you don't need to remember the entire movie dialogue by dialogue, but that one scene could have, like, you know, helped you unstuck in one situation in your life, right? And that's impact made. So yeah, we have to just trust that even one page, even one para from your book can actually just transform someone's life. So we don't have to place the burden of reading our book on the world. We don't have to place it on the world that we expect that they read the entire book and then feel resented, like, you know, you didn't read the whole book.
I mean, statistically, most people don't finish books.
Yeah.
So if it's not good all the way through, it doesn't really matter. What's your second book about?
That's about how to write a book. So it's most likely going to be called Unleash the Author Within. Yeah, that's what I'm working on. It's basically everything that I teach in my programs, everything that I've learned from my mistakes so far, but it has a definite scope this time, and I'm not wanting to fit everything in it. So that's one more belief, you know, that I've actually started living with, and I just challenge myself and I remind myself that it's never going to go wrong. It cannot go wrong. So after my book is out, and if I realize some things missed out, it was never meant to be.
Right, you could just
write another book. Exactly.
Amazing. So for, you know, all of your people out there who are like on the precipice of writing a book or have a burning desire to, and are ready to take that next step, like what is the, you know, the most transformative message that you really wish that they knew?
Most transformative. There's so many, but here's the thing. So if, you know, in my programs, there's this weekly check-in post that we do in our Facebook group, and it just has two very simple questions. This week, did you keep it easy? Actually, did you go within, and did you keep it easy? So I think so many of us, and including me, I'm not immune just because I'm a book coach, every one of us, wherever we struggle, that struggle is always created from a place of ego and shoulds, you know. How long should my book be? Like the most typical questions that I get asked by my clients is, how long should a chapter be? You know, you get to decide. How long should my book be? How many chapters? You decide. What's the name? You decide. So really check in with your heart. And if your heart has this like really true desire, which feels like gratitude for the fact that you have that desire, and it's coming from a place of it's exciting you. You know what I'm trying to say, right? It's if it's exciting you, and you cannot not write your book before you leave this world. I'm really gonna say that. Then, if it's your true desire, you have to just allow your desire to take shape and stop, stopping yourself because your ego thinks you don't want to be too much.
I love this message so much. And yeah, I love that. That idea of like, if you got to the end of your life, sometimes I ask that to my clients, like think about, Grandma Shilpa or like Grandma Sarah, like sitting on her deck in her chair at the end of her life, looking back on this moment. Do you think she would wish that you did it or that you didn't do it? Like just do it. And another thing that comes up all the time that I notice that I really learned from being a coach and working with my clients is that your desires never go away. Like even when you imagine the worst possible fear came true and you navigated your way through it, at the end of it all, your desire would still be there. So yeah, absolutely. I love that message to just trust it and lead the way.
Yeah.
Amazing. So please tell anyone, all the aspiring authors out there who are interested in your work and learning more about you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook you can just search Shilpa Book Coach, one word, Shilpa Book Coach. That's the handle I use on Facebook, Instagram, and now Clubhouse. So excited for that. And I have started a new community on Facebook, which is called Author Mind. So if you search Author Mind, it's a new, very intimate, coming up, growing community where I'm going to teach everything that I know that can help you get unstuck and just get writing. So I'd love to see you in there. You can just get it on facebook.com/groups/authormind.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming and sharing all of your nuggets of wisdom with us today. And thank you everyone for watching.
Oh, thank you. It was such a pleasure being here. And I know the conversation is never enough, but we'll have more.
Definitely. Bye. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
For more inspirational content, head over to my website withsarahmac.com and please support the show by liking, commenting, and subscribing.